This channel is what studying abroad dreams are made of. Do subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel iSchoolConnect. Like every week we are back with some really interesting content, and today we're going to be talking about the IELTS Indicator test. And to talk about the entire test experience, I have a very special person with me. I have David from TEDIELTS.com. He's a professor and he's been training students in this space for over a decade. So thank you so much, David, for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here. I'm glad to talk with you and share some ideas.
We're going to start off straight with all the questions that students have been having. Can you please tell me a little bit about which countries can the test be taken in, and what is the basic technology that students need to have at home to give the test?
Right. So what countries it's available in? It's in many countries, but not all countries. There's a list on the IELTS website and the IELTS Indicator and the British Council website, and you can check. What I know is it's not in China this now. There's a lot of countries actually it's not in, but it's in many of them. It's predominantly in the countries that have been hit by the COVID-19 situation, because it's there to replace the formal and traditional test. Basically what this is just taking the real test and putting it on a computer and letting people do it from home, which includes some issues, some problems. You mentioned technology there. That's, I think, the biggest issue. I think it's something that really needs to be dealt with and considered, and it's a personal choice for each of your students. And we were talking earlier about, I've got very bad internet today. There's some problem outside my house. If I was an IELTS student, I could not do the test like this, because you need your internet connection to be pretty much perfect. I mean, it has to be very, very fast, because if there's any problem, then you lose your money, you lose your attempt to do it. So you need fast internet. You need to download something, some sort of secure browser. It's called the SEB, I think, from IELTS. You need a good pair of headphones, or some sort of way of some good speakers maybe. You need a quiet place, because you don't want to do an exam with kids running about or something. You need a reliable computer, but you can't use your phone or tablet for this. It has to be a wired internet connection, again, just to ensure that it's a completely perfect connection to the internet.
Absolutely. So just to reiterate what you said, it's pretty much available in most countries that are hit by COVID, especially in Asia, especially in India and a few of the main Asian countries except China. And in terms of technology, like David said, make sure you have a good internet connection. And of course, that also brings me to the ambience of the room in which you're taking the test. What about that, David?
Taking a test is a really difficult and stressful thing for everybody. You need somewhere peaceful and comfortable, that you're not going to be distracted. You can't have somebody banging on the door and asking you a question in the middle of your exam. You can't have a police car going down the street and its siren is interrupting you. You need to be able to focus on this 100%, because it's a big deal. This is an indicator test, so it's not as official as the real one, but people now need to use this in order to apply to a university. So this is still tremendously important. So yeah, when you decide that you are going to do the test, you need to make sure certain things are in place, that you've got the fast internet, the good equipment, and you've got a very quiet and comfortable place to take it.
Absolutely. In fact, when the proctor requests you to check in with your ambience, they will expect it to be a space that is, that has a door and that's shut off from everything else. It's clean. You don't have anything on your table, especially, your phone. So those are a few more points to add to what you said, David. In terms of the traditional pen and paper not being able, students will not be able to use that, and there has to be a workaround for that. What do students do there?
So this became a challenge even a couple of years ago when they changed and gave you the option of the paper versus the computer-based IELTS, because what we're now seeing is just this IELTS indicator is the computer exam but taken at home, which is a change. But already there were some benefits and some problems to doing IELTS on the computer, because a lot of people, they have these habits where we write down notes to help ourselves remember or understand things better. When we're doing the reading exam, for example, we can circle things. When we're writing or when we're listening, we can write something down and then we can use it again later. You can't really do that on a computer screen so easily. But then there are other advantages, meaning that for the writing, for example, it's much easier to go back and change something or to track the number of words that you've taken. So yeah, there are some difficulties, but I think it balances out in other ways.
Amazing. So you know what, David, at this point, my next question is, would the questions, would they be as difficult in the computer-based test, or would they be as, easy or difficult as they would be in a traditional test at the center?
Yeah, they're exactly the same.
They would be exactly the same.
Officially, they're the same. There's people always have a feeling. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. People say, oh, it's more difficult in this country or this city or this place. But it's the same. It's the same questions, the same method, and it's the same examiners. Should be the same.
Great. And in terms of, what would be the suggestion, what would your suggestions be for students who are taking this test? How many weeks in advance should they start off with? What are the different, prep materials that they should be looking at? What would you say about that?
It's a good question, because I think first you have to ask, is this the right test for me? It's not for everyone. For example, one thing that we've not spoken about yet, this is only for academic. It's only for people who are going to university, so it's not for general training or anything. So taking that in mind, then you've got to prepare for the academic test, but it's not going to really be any different. So you can just prepare in exactly the same ways as you would for the computer-based regular IELTS exam. I don't think there's any big difference except the note-taking techniques and so forth. In terms of the actual questions you're preparing for, it's just the same, and it's still just a test of your English abilities. So it's just the same. It's really down to, as I said first, should you take the exam? Because it's quite expensive. It's not for everyone. It's, even if you get a band 8 and you're very happy, you may have to go back and take the real exam later and get an 8 again to please the university that you gave the indicator 8 to. So maybe it's not such a brilliant idea for everybody.
So, so is a university going to accept the IELTS indicator as an alternative to the traditional IELTS test?
It's up to the universities. They don't have to. If you go on, it's the British Council website this now, I think. you can see a list of all the organizations in the world that have agreed in principle to use these results. But they still, it's not like the final result exactly. They may take it as a serious final result, or they may say, okay, this is an indication that you can get a 7 and 8. Now you've got to go take the real test and come back again.
Got it. So for the time being, this is something you can take if you are appearing for the upcoming spring or fall intake. But there is a possibility that universities might go back and request you to take the test again if they feel there is a need to prove your proficiency again.
I think it's a big chance. I think this is this is showing the universities now, for, as you said, for the autumn semester, that I can get a 7 and 8, so I can apply. But the universities are still going to want to see real proof, or some of them will. This is another question, or another idea that we're seeing a lot these days. We don't know 100%. This test was IELTS basically saying, we understand it's very difficult now. A lot of people, young people, they need to go to university soon, but they don't have their IELTS results. So this is just a way of filling the gap.
Yes, so I think we've covered pretty much all the questions. Is there anything in specific that you want to talk about, about any of those 4 skills that will be tested, or in general, any of your, final suggestions for students?
So when it comes to IELTS, one of the biggest problems is everybody's looking for these tricks and tips and hints and magic ideas. And they all have their techniques, and they'll say, oh, you've got to learn these words, or you learn this method. It's an English test. It's like everything else. If you speak perfect English, you get a really great score. So when you're preparing for IELTS Indicator, first ask yourself, is this the right test for me? And if it is, then just prepare for it pretty much the same as you would for normal IELTS. So learning grammar, learning vocabulary, practicing pronunciation, and so on and so on. There's nothing really special about this. Just prepare for it the way you would normally do for an English test.
Absolutely. I think we've been recommending students, different places where they can prepare from, different kind of materials. We've even gone ahead and said that, go ahead and watch movies which have, good English, and that could help as well. Because the more you hear the accents, the more you hear the vocabulary, the better it is going to be for you, right? Talk in English as much as you can. The more you converse, the more you write, the more you make it a natural instinct to write in English, talk in English, and think in English, the more you'll be able to better yourself at the language. I think we've covered most of the important points. If any of you have any further questions about the test, you can always reach out to us in the comment section below, or you could DM us on social media via iSchoolConnect everywhere. If you want any kind of material or training for the IELTS test, you can always reach out to David on ted-ielts.com. We'll leave it in the description below. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.